Hey y'all, it's Tari, and I know some of y'all may have heard about the announcement about the new food pyramid that was just released yesterday, I believe. Listen, we all have our feelings about it, right? And so I'm just going to go through the actual guidelines, and first I'm going to read it and tell you exactly what it says. And then I'm going to go through piece by piece and tell you the pros and the cons. No matter which side of the political aisle you lay, there are definitely pros and cons to this plan. And so we're gonna go through the whole thing. So the first thing I'm gonna do is just read the introduction, right? So when you read the initial message, it sounds reasonable, which is what makes it a little bit misleading. I'll just go ahead and say that. But they're not completely wrong either. So, okay. So the first thing it says is that, and my laptop is right here, so that's why I'm looking off to the side. The first thing it says is that the message is simple: eat real food. To make America healthy again, we must return to the basics. American households must prioritize diets built on whole, nutrient dense foods, protein, dairy, vegetables, fruits, healthy fats, and whole grains. Okay. Paired with a dramatic reduction in highly processed foods laden with refined carbohydrates, added sugars, excess sodium, unhealthy fats, and chemical additives. This approach can change the health trajectory for so many Americans. The United States is amid a health emergency. Agreed. Nearly 90% of healthcare spending goes to treating people who have chronic diseases. Many of these illnesses are not genetic destiny. Also agreed. They are the predictable result of the SAD diet, or the standard American diet, a diet which over time has become reliant on highly processed foods and coupled with a sedentary lifestyle. Also agreed. All right. The consequences have been devastating. More than 70% of American adults are overweight or obese. Nearly 1 in 3 American adolescents between the ages of 12 and 17 has prediabetes. Diet driven chronic disease now disqualifies large numbers of young Americans from military service, undermining national readiness and cutting off a historic pathway to opportunity and upward mobility. For decades, federal incentives have promoted low quality, highly processed foods and pharmaceutical intervention instead of prevention. And that is a problem. This crisis is the result of poor policy choices, inadequate nutrition research, and a lack of coordination across the federal, state, local, and private partners. This changes today. We are realigning our food system to support American farmers, ranchers, and companies who grow and produce real food, and the administration is working to ensure all families can afford it. I really like to see them help people afford food because this grocery bill is getting, I mean, it's out of hand. Even if you don't, even without the meat, it's too much. Me and my sister spent $150 last week for just like fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds. Like, okay. Um, and then it just goes on to basically like reiterate all of what I just read. All right. So I'll say that the actual pyramid of itself is a little wonky, and I understand that a lot of people are not going to actually read the the guideline. They're just going to look at the picture and say, "Oh, okay, it looks like I'm supposed to have a whole lot of meat, throw in some vegetables, and barely any carbs." That's what most people are going to say or think when they look at this pyramid, because the picture is just not structured correctly, in my opinion. But we're going to go ahead and scroll down to the specifics of the guideline. One of the pros of this new food pyramid is eating more whole foods and less processed foods. Agreed. I think that that's something that everyone can agree on. We all know that we need more whole foods, things that are going to consume the whole plant, um, or the whole food item, not just a piece of it, right? We want the we want the whole avocado, and it's okay to have the avocado oil for cooking in moderation, but when we're just slapping around avocado oil and everything, right? We understand that we have to be in moderation. It's better to have to eat the banana than to have banana ice cream, banana flavored ice cream. Like you know, you see what I'm saying? Like, yes, we understand that we want to not process and over process our foods. So I think that that's just something that I think they threw that in there because they knew everybody would say, well, duh, of course, you know. So we'll go ahead and count it as a pro because maybe it really needed to be said, but I don't think that it did. So of course they tell you to eat the right amount for you. Duh. Like we're all gonna do that, right? And of course, you want to listen to your hunger cues. Absolutely, I agree. But you also want to pay attention to what is a proper amount for you based on your weight, your physical activity level and all of that. And so, one of the cons that I will say about this plan is they are focusing on protein from animal sources. So, they are hyping up red meats. They're hyping up, of course, the poultry, the chicken. They've already always been trying to get that down Americans' throats, and pork, things like that. And to be honest, I will say that I think that that is one of the things I do not agree with. I'm not saying don't ever eat meat because I do eat meat, but I don't think that it needs to be, forget what I think. The research does say that the higher your animal protein intake is, the higher risk you are at producing cardiovascular disease. So, how does that happen? Okay, it's simple. Protein is made up of amino acids, and one of those amino acids is leucine. Now, leucine is found in both animal protein as well as plant protein. However, you will find it in larger amounts per serving in animal protein than you will in plant protein. And so, if your diet is focused on only consuming animal protein or mostly animal protein, then you're going to obviously consume more leucine. The issue with this is that leucine has the job of going into your blood vessels and clearing out the plaque. But the problem is when you have too much of that leucine, you would think, okay, well, I'll just get more plaque cleared out. That's not exactly how it works. Yes, it will go in and try to do its job and clear it out. But what ends up happening is the amino acid is full of that plaque, and then now it gets backed up. And then it just kind of, the cell is spent, but it just kind of sits there. It doesn't clear out the way you think it would. It would consume it, but then just sit. And then that just builds up the artery walls. And so that's the reason why relying on animal protein for your protein source is an issue. This is one of the things that I think that was missed in this current recommendation. This is my favorite one right here. So when it comes to the protein, they want you to prioritize high quality, nutrient dense protein foods as part of a healthy dietary pattern. Consume a variety of protein foods from animal sources, including eggs, poultry, seafood, and red meat. They said this like 1,000 times because that's what they really want you to focus on. But it does say, as well as a variety of plant source protein foods, including beans, peas, lentils, legumes, nuts, seeds, and soy. Soy is a no-no in this country. If you're in almost any other country, I would say maybe, but in this country, just stay away from soy altogether because the way that they process, how are you going to tell people to not have processed food, not have highly processed food, and then turn around and tell them to have soy? When soy is the main ingredient in all of our highly processed foods. You have to read between the lines, y'all. It does say to swap deep fried cooking methods with baked, broiled, roasted, stir fried, or grilled cooking methods instead. I agree with that. Now, here's where we have an issue. When we get to the protein serving goals, 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. That would be way too much. That's just way too much. As an athlete, okay, so let me just give you a little bit of background of my background. For the last 13, 14 years, I have been practicing as a certified athletic trainer. And so part of my job is to make sure that my athletes are properly nourished. Because why? When they're not properly nourished, we have injuries. You know what I'm saying? And they're less resistant to those injuries. Okay, so athletes should consume about 1.2 to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight. So that comes out to about 0.55 to 0.9 grams per pound of body weight. All right. So I put my athletes on the higher end because I know that they're really not going to actually consume. I work with young athletes. They're not going to consume that much. So I put them on the higher end and I tell them 0.8 to 0.85, and they'll probably land somewhere around 0.6 because kids are kids, right? If you're telling sedentary adults to consume 1.2 to 1.6, that's within the same range that the athletes are supposed to be consuming. It doesn't make sense. It comes out to somewhere around, if you're like 100 pounds, it comes out to like about 45 grams, no, 54 grams, something like that. When really you should be consuming about 36. A 100-pound person should be consuming about 36. And it needs to come from plants. Why do we got to eat the animals? Listen, again, I do eat meat, but I also eat too much of it. I can admit that. And so I don't think that pushing meat, and first of all, in the South, you don't even have to tell us to eat more meat. We gonna do it anyway. Like that's just meat, potatoes, meat, a starch, a vegetable, maybe a green vegetable, but definitely a starch vegetable, and meat. Meat is like half the plate. I came up in a household where, for whatever reason, we had two meat on each meal, and that's how I got here. That's one of the reasons of how I got here. And so, pushing that in order to satisfy farmers, pushing that in order to satisfy these food conglomerates, it's not it. It is not serving the people. They are really pushing the eggs, the poultry, the red meat. And again, it's all about it's all about the Benjamins. I'm sorry, it just is.
Hey y'all, it's voiceover Tari. And one of the things I forgot to mention is that another issue with consuming too much protein is that you can also get kidney stones. So not only do we have to consider the cardiovascular health, we also have to consider the way that we eliminate through our kidneys, and too much protein can definitely be an issue there.
Okay, so the next pro of this new food pyramid is the amount of healthy fats that is recommended. So they are recommending no more than 10% of your diet, your daily intake, to be from fat. No more than 10%. So I would agree with this number. The part that I don't agree with is that they are still pushing the meat, the eggs, the poultry first, and they're talking less about the nuts, the seeds. Those are the things, those are the type of fats that we really need to focus on. Your olive oils for cooking, your olive oils for salad dressing, your avocado oils for cooking. Those are the healthy fats that we need to be consuming. And then, of course, avocados themselves in the whole food form, because you want to have the fiber with the fruits and vegetables and stuff. We'll get to that in a minute. Do your research and you'll find that that's one thing that does not align with the people's best interest. All right, so for a con, they're recommending 2 servings of fruits per day and 3 servings of vegetables per day. So a total of 5 for fruits and vegetables. That's not enough. I would say that you would need about 6 to 7 servings with them combined. So I would recommend 3 fruit servings and about 4 vegetable servings per day. Because why? You're going to get a lot of the fiber. The more fruits and vegetables, the more fiber. That and you're going to need all that fiber in order to clear out all this meat that they're pushing. I mean, what? I mean that one just stands on its own. One of the pros of this new food pyramid is to consume less grains. Yes, we definitely want to consume less of those grains, specifically the ones that are highly processed, the ones that are more of your simple carbs, your pastas, your breads, things like that. And they're saying to have more whole grains. But grains in general and carbohydrates in general do need to be minimized. And I do agree with that. Um, Most of the carbs that we consume in America, I can't speak for all countries, but in America, most of the source of those carbs are from those highly processed grains. It's the pizza dough, it's the pasta, it's the bread. The highly processed bread is not even real bread. Now, if you're using sprouted bread, that's something different, but that's more of a form of like more of a whole grain, and it's sprouted, so you're going to get all the nutrients you need. And that's more in line with what we need. So, that is one of the pros of this new food pyramid that I think is really good, especially for people who have celiac disease, but even just your everyday average American who does not have celiac disease will benefit from consuming less of those processed carbohydrates. One of the other cons of this new food pyramid is that they are recommending the consumption of dairy. Now, they're saying that they want us to have 3 servings per day as part of a 2,000 calorie dietary pattern, adjusting as needed based on your individual caloric requirements. Okay. Then it says when consuming dairy, include full fat dairy with no added sugars. No added sugars. Okay, I agree with no added sugars. We don't need any of that. And this goes on to say dairy is an excellent source of protein, healthy fats, vitamins, and minerals. Yes, for the animal that it's supposed to feed. Cow's milk is for baby cows. We're not cows. Cows have different dietary needs at the calf stage than what we need as humans at adults, and even what we need as humans as children. In my opinion, in the research that backs it up, dairy should be completely off of this list. And when it comes to the animal proteins and the dairy, we know that the reason why they are there is because if you go down your grocery aisle, you see a lot of plant-based milks, plant-based yogurts, and they are taking over. They're not taking over, but they are taking up a lot of the shelf space now compared to even 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. And let's be honest, it's all about the money. And in the initial opening, when they mentioned food companies and making sure that they're healthy and strong and farmers, I think that farmers, yes, farmers should definitely be taken care of, but not if they're producing the food that is hurting us. Not if these companies are going to continue to incentivize foods that are harming us. And that's exactly what you're doing when you're pushing dairy at any level. We do not need it at all. There's nothing in our body that requires dairy. There's nothing in dairy that we cannot get from other sources. We just simply don't need it. And it can be very problematic it has been very problematic for a lot of people. It has contributed to the obesity epidemic. Y'all, do your own research and make sure that you do what's best for you and your family. Make sure that you know exactly how you need to be preparing these meals, what you need to be consuming and how much, because no one is going to care about your health to the same degree and level that you do. All right? I don't care if they are a president, a secretary, I don't care if they are the homeless man down the street or your local grocer. At the end of the day, no one is going to care more than you. So you have to do your own research and you have to do your own digging and make sure you come up with a plan that works for you and your family. And I think once we give the power back to the people and like truly inform them, that's when we'll start to see a change. I just wanted to give y'all the highlights of the new food pyramid that just came out yesterday. I'm going to link the actual guide in my description so that you can take a look at it for yourself. We did some of that here, but I want you to be able to read for yourself so that you can go through it line by line, piece by piece, and you figure out what makes the most sense in your mind when you read it.